we will take a look. First of all, it's Tuesday. Um, I told you guys on Thursday I didn't expect to be here, and I didn't because of the information that I was getting was so positive about the release to us. We have more information, although today has been very, very light in the way of new intel. We've got a little bit, but not a whole lot. And that's a good sign. When things get really quiet, when blog pagers don't really have much on there, and they don't have updates, that's a good sign that things are coming to an end. Now, where are we with respect to Iraq right now? What we were looking for last time, I believe on Thursday's call, was we were looking for this to basically come to an end, that Iraq was looking good. We have had confirmation, and we've had a news report on Fox yesterday that the war over Mosul is over. That was telling us that the liberation of Mosul was at hand. And this is something that has been a long fight. It's really been something that hasn't been reported on our news, and yet the sources that we have are much, much closer to the action and are able to tell us, in fact, it's been over 3 weeks that Mosul was liberated. But because of the release, the timing of this, it hasn't made the news until yesterday. Now, it wasn't even a long story. It wasn't even a big deal about it. It was just mentioned. There was some photography with it, a little bit of copy, but not a whole lot. But what's interesting about what is happening over there is that we have permits for parade use going out to, I believe the number was 14,000 or more people that want to have permits for their cars or vehicles to be in parades. And they started issuing these permits a couple of days ago because so many people wanted to be part of the celebration. They wanted to be part of it. They wanted to decorate their cars and trucks, and they wanted to be part of the parade. Well, guess what? It's not just one parade. It's a parade in at least one in every province. Remember, there's 16 provinces in Iraq, and so this is something that'll be nationwide and a beautiful celebration. Now, they have started trying to have parades, but they've stopped them. They haven't let them continue. They haven't gone through with them because they weren't quite ready for that start, for the completion of the parades. And we understand that they are supposed to start tomorrow and go through about a week of parades and celebration. So that will tie into, I believe it's the EID, the Eid, I don't know which holiday it is, Eid al-Fitr or Eid, another one that dovetails right into the beginning of Ramadan. But we do believe that parades are going to take place and start tomorrow. Now, in addition to that, we have over 4,000 permits given for firework displays. So this is a big deal. Where do you think they're getting the fireworks from? Don't you think China's providing the fireworks? I do. I think they are. And these displays will happen probably all over the country as well. So you've got parades, celebration, you've got cars and trucks being decorated for this, you've got 14,000 permits so far that have been issued for the parade route. This is just to be part of and to come into the parades. It's really cool. I mean, this is going to be the biggest celebration they've ever had in Iraq. And I'm kind of excited for them. Very excited. So that's happening, and that's going to go on. Let's see what else is happening. Now, regarding this is regarding the ATM machines. Guess what? The lower denominations are out now through the ATM machines. It was in 13 of the 16 provinces up until yesterday morning, around 10 our time, and then came to find out the remaining three provinces caught up and became also 100% available for these lower denominations. They're calling them lower notes in Iraq. Now, what is significant about that? Why does that matter? Would a lower denomination, meaning a value of the bill, the note, the lower notes, would they have value with the dinar at the rate that it has been at for so long? Since, well, it's changed slightly, but it's gone up since 2003. But since those days when it was 4,000 dinar to $1, 4,000 to $1, and now it was in that 1168, 1130 something dinar. I mean, there has been an increase. But my point is, these lower denominations wouldn't have any value if the dinar had not changed its value already. See, you wouldn't need lower denominations. You wouldn't need 2s, 5s, 10s, 50s, 20s dinar notes if the dinar didn't have a true value. Okay? Now, the other thing in addition to that, you guys remember the term fils, F-I-L-S. It's like the French word fils, which means son in French, F-I-L-S. But in Iraq, these fils are 1/1000th of a dinar. It's like taking a dollar and breaking it up into 100 pennies. If you took a dinar and broke that down into 1,000 parts, it would be a fil, F-I-L-S. It would be a fil. Now, multiple fils like 200, 250, 500 fils, that creates a coin of value like we would have a quarter. Remember, we used to have 50-cent pieces. We don't anymore, I don't think, but we had them. Dimes, nickels. That represents a portion of our dollar. Well, these coins that are called fils represent a portion of the dinar. Coins. Now, why does that matter? Why would you have coins if the dinar itself wasn't large enough to divide? In other words, let's say the dinar, let's just pick a number. Let's just pick 8. Let's say the dinar was worth $8 US. And if it were worth 8, and you were to buy something that was worth, let's say, $2, it had a value of $2, that would be worth what? That would be worth 1/4 of a dinar. You see, because the dinar is worth 8, and our dollar is worth 1. And $2, of our US dollar would be 1/4 of the dinar, which would have a value of 8. That means it'd be worth a fourth of that. Okay, so the point is that you have a currency that needed to be divided into lower parts, like these fils. Okay? And so those don't have a value unless the dinar also has a higher value. Same thing with the lower denominations or lower notes. Same thing's true of the fils. Those are out. Now, are the fils coming out of the ATMs? No. Those would be available in the banks. Okay. Lower denoms would also be in the banks, but they're also in the ATMs. Okay, so that's a very good sign. I remember 6, 7, 8 years ago when we knew about the idea of lower denoms or lower notes. We thought, when we see lower denoms, when we see those, we're there. And that's true. We are there because the value of the dinar has increased, and in country, at least, They're using it. They're using the smart cards, which are spelled QI. They're pronounced key cards, QI, key cards. They have a value to where everyone in the country is paid at a standard rate of the dinar to the dollar, and then they get paid that way. They get paid on these cards. These cards are international. They are used by Iraqi citizens in other countries. So it's not just that they're using these in Iraq. They are being used in the U.S., and it's a relationship through MasterCard, okay, through Chase Bank, and Rafidian Bank primarily. Other banks too, but that was the initial. It was like a 50-50 relationship between Chase and Rafidian back in the old days. Okay, so I'm very excited about the new lower notes and about the fills and about Iraq and their celebrations. And now this is the only thing. Yesterday there was supposed to be a meeting of the UN Security Council at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And some positive things came out of that meeting. They usually have an agenda of no more than 14 items. 14 items of agenda on that meeting. And they were able to discuss that and look into all those items beforehand so that by the time they actually have the meeting, they can have pretty much straight up and down votes on everything that's been brought up at the UN security meeting, and they can knock that out in a couple hours to 2.5 hours. I believe that's what they did yesterday, starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, were there things discussed relative to security issues in Iraq, possibly the liberation and release of information about Mosul? I did not get specific information about what was in that meeting, except for a couple of points that were important points, but that were unrelated directly to Iraq. So that's where I unfortunately don't have that information I was hoping to bring about that meeting relative to Iraq. All right, let's go back over. So Iraq is basically, guys, in my opinion, Iraq is ready. They're set up for the celebration. They are set up to do this, a parade for possibly 6 or 7 days in a row, these parades, these celebrations, these fireworks. It's really cool. It's about to go. It's about to happen. Now, the other thing is, we have heard it is the goal of those that we've talked to in Iraq. We understand that the goal is to have this revaluation of the dinar out in public and for us to have this before Ramadan starts. And I was told the start, whether it's Eid al-Fitr or another holiday that dovetails into Ramadan, but the start would be on Friday. And you guys know Friday is their high holy day, and then Saturday is also kind of a holy day like our weekend, but we should have this prior to that start, which is on Friday. Today is Tuesday. Now, do we know when this is going to go down for us? Not exactly, no. But I'll tell you where we are with the other information so that you can sort of calculate where we might be. We know that the groups are divided into what we call tiers, T-I-E-R-S, tiers, levels. And we have 4 levels of groups. We have the tier 1s, which are the sovereign nations. Tier 2s are the elders, and a number of other VIP type individuals make up tier 2. Tier 3 are primarily made up of subgroups and private groups and humanitarian funding sources and some of the other things. Fill up tier 3. Now, we were tracking tier 3 for days, even last week, and we had the impression that tier 3 was going to wrap up a couple of days ago, and it did. Tier 3s were complete. Now, the Tier 3s completed, but it doesn't mean everybody has their money yet. A lot of these people have done exchanges or done additional exchanges in addition to their group settings, but most of these people have some money from the exchanges, but the balance of their funds will come when everyone gets to start. Like us, we're in Tier 4. We're next. Now, our understanding is that once we get notified and get started with our appointments, that around that time, close to that time, that's when everyone from the past will be fully liquid and hydrated. You say, well, boy, this takes a long time. Why did it take so long? Are we delayed? I don't see this as a delay. Now, we may have had some delays along the way, yes. But right now, with everything that's coming out, what we are seeing is some additional information that we didn't really know about. And that is, for example, the audits. Every time there's a pause, 12 hours, sometimes more, between the groups, there's a pause to audit everything, to make sure that everything was done properly and that everything is set up. Those audits have been happening routinely between these tiers. The other thing is we found out that the Tier 2, now don't get confused by this, the Tier 2 banks. Tier 1 banks are the ones like Wells Fargo, HSBC, Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, these larger Tier 1 banks, okay? Then we come into Tier 2 banks. There are 104 in the United States, 104 branded names of Tier 2 banks. These are people like SunTrust, Regions Bank, Fifth Third, and I could think probably Bank First. There are a number of regional banks that are Tier 2. Now, HSBC wanted to make sure that the Tier 2 banks could participate in this process, in the revaluation and in the redemption process, and they've allowed a way for that to happen. Okay? So Tier 2 banks will be able to be part of this. Now, before that could happen, the Tier 2 banks had to be audited. They have to make sure that the Tier 2 banks either have the liquidity or will have the liquidity to handle these exchanges. They have to have enough money so that when the exchanges take place, they're not caught with their pants down. They've got a certain amount of liquidity to handle this. And that's why when we say money's moving around like crazy, these huge mega tranches have come in, and those have been distributed out. See, those have been spread out, not only here in the U.S., but around the world. That takes a while to get all that done. And what's interesting about it is now those Tier 2 audits have completed. They completed pretty close to 10 in the morning yesterday. Now, what's interesting about that is that now our Tier 1 banks are ready, our redemption centers are ready, our Tier 2 banks are ready, and guess what? We're ready. Now, I know I could probably bring up some more information. I will say this. Today, the Zim and the dinar were flashing on the screen. I think that means that they're continuing to move these currencies and trade these currencies, and I think that they're getting in position for them to settle in and solidify very shortly. The other thing is that we know that everything as far as what's going on out west is basically complete now. And that's a good thing. I'm not going to use the D word. Everything's complete. I can still get away with that word for a while. Okay? Now that's very positive for us. And we know that the elders have begun to have access to their accounts. And we think that that's sort of a two-part process. And then we look forward for that to continue. And then I believe we will have what we're looking for. The USNs will be completely made liquid and made available, and then we will be able to start as Tier 4. Okay? Because I know that, yes, I have been selected to be the one to bring out the 800 number. I'm honored by that. I'm very honored by both HSBC and AIIB to have been selected for that purpose. And I know that that particular number is in safe hands and will make its way to me. And then I'll put it out. And I'll put it out in the way that I'm entrusted to do it, with the instruction that comes with that, just so you guys know. All right, so I'm excited. I'm excited for all of us. I'm excited for all of us to get started. And I believe, this is my opinion, that when that occurs and we have that toll-free number to put out, the rest of these groups, tier 2s, 3s, and then the 4s, we should be setting our appointments, the beginning of our exchanges at about the same time that tier 2s and tier 3s are made liquid, are made hydrated, and have full access to their funds. That would be a true shotgun start. And I believe this is the desire of the elders, that it work that way. Now, here's one other little thing. We understand that, yes, several days ago, certain parts of the world began their exchanges. There were some what are called backdoor exchanges going on by some of the banks that where they know the people that have purchased currency, and some of them have contacted them to let them know they could come in and exchange. However, here's the caveat. If you got called by a bank like that and you went in to do your exchange, you would not have access to privately negotiated rates. That is the one benefit that we in Tier 4 have. We have the right to negotiate these rates. Remember how we've heard the Bible say, the last shall be first and the first shall be last? That's true in this case. We may be last, but in a very real sense, we will be first, because we'll have access to privately negotiate our rates. I'll just say it like that. So it's sort of a hidden benefit to be last, if you will, as Tier 4. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. So I'm excited that we are the chosen ones, the COs, as some of the Redemption Center staff refer to us. And I believe we've been chosen for a purpose. We have a purpose, and we've been chosen for that purpose, for this time. Now, I'll probably speak a little bit later about some additional things, but as it is right now, we are in the process. It's moving through. Yes, it's gone a little more slowly than we thought through the various tiers, but we know now why it needed to go like this, with 12-hour or 24-hour pauses between tiers, and the audits that have been taking place of the tiers and also of these banks. So it's all coming together, There's a reason for it all. And at least now the picture's becoming a little bit more clear for us. All right? With that said, I appreciate everybody's continued patience. Stay with your plan A until plan B comes through for us, which is our blessing. Okay? If we had known 12, 13 years ago that this was going to take that long, that would have been maybe different for a lot of people. And I think it's wise if we can just keep everything going in the meantime and look at this as something that's very, very close now, and just be prepared for it. Just be prepared for it.